The circle of love. Every love story leaves something behind. A letter, a photograph, a promise. But one symbol endures across every culture, every language, and every time. The ring. A perfect circle that somehow carries the weight of forever. Long before diamonds and gold, before cathedrals and chapels, two people once stood beside the Nile. The air was warm, the river lazy and wide, and they promised each other a life joined together. They wove reeds into circles and slipped them onto one another's fingers, not for wealth or proof, but for belief. Egyptians thought a vein ran from that finger straight to the heart. To them, the ring was not a decoration. It was a living symbol, a circle with no beginning and no end, as endless as love itself. Centuries later, the Romans borrowed the custom and changed its meaning. For them, love and law were never far apart. A ring was a sign of contract, an agreement between families, sealed not in romance but obligation. The iron ring a woman wore meant she was spoken for, legally bound to one man's household. Love might have been part of it, but possession came first. Still, the circle endured. Over time, Romans began engraving their names inside the band, small marks of affection in an otherwise rigid world. As empires rose and fell, the circle remained, passed from pagan hands into the sacred halls of the church. When Christianity spread across Europe, the church saw in that circle a reflection of its own vision of eternal commitment. By the 8th century, priests were blessing rings in wedding ceremonies, turning human promise into divine covenant. The gold band replaced the iron one, soft metal standing for gentle hearts. The simple circle became holy, wrapped in ritual words. With this ring, I thee wed. The ring was now proof not only of love, but of obedience, to spouse, to faith, and to the moral order the church sought to preserve. For nobles and kings, it was also a public statement of wealth and alliance. Jewels crept into the design, rubies for passion, sapphires for loyalty, and diamonds for strength. By the Middle Ages, rings had become intricate works of art. Some hid tiny compartments for perfume or relics, others bore religious inscriptions. In these centuries, the exchange of rings moved from the sacred to the social stage. To be married without one seemed incomplete. The circle had become an expectation. During the Renaissance, as trade routes opened and gemstones poured into Europe, engagement rings took on new significance. They marked the joining of fortunes as much as hearts. Wealthy families displayed their power through carats and craftsmanship. For the rich, the ring was as much about lineage as love. For the poor, it remained a humble token of hope. In 1477, Archduke Maximilian of Austria gave Mary of Burgundy a ring set with small diamonds forming the letter M. That single gesture transformed history. The diamond, once rare and mysterious, became the measure of devotion. A stone from the depths of the earth, unbreakable, eternal. What better metaphor for love? But for centuries afterward, diamonds stayed beyond ordinary reach. Only the powerful could afford to bind their promises in such brilliance. Then, in the 19th century, miners struck vast diamond fields in South Africa, and the balance shifted. The discovery should have flooded the world with stones and made them cheap. Instead, a handful of businessmen saw an opportunity. In 1888, they formed De Beers Consolidated Mines, a name that would come to define the modern language of love. For a time, the industry boomed, but when the Great Depression struck, diamond sales collapsed. Love, it seemed, could survive without sparkle. Then, in 1938, De Beers hired an advertising agency in New York with one goal: convince the world that a diamond was not just a luxury, but a necessity. They coined a phrase that would change culture forever: a diamond is forever. The idea was genius. If love was eternal, then so must be the ring. A man who truly cared would measure his affection in months of wages, 2, maybe 3, because anything less would look like doubt. The campaign worked. By the 1940s, magazines and films were echoing the same message: no proposal was complete without a diamond. And so, a symbol that once stood for faith and eternity now also carried the weight of expectation. Men felt the pressure first. Jewelry counters became stages where love was tested by price tags. A man with trembling hands might wonder if the smaller stone meant smaller devotion. Salesmen whispered, "She'll remember this moment forever," while bank accounts quietly groaned. Women, too, were caught in the illusion. The ring on their finger no longer spoke only of promise, but of worth. The world began to judge love by its shine. Then came war. Millions of couples were separated by oceans and fear. Letters crossed battlefields, and rings, simple gold bands, became the only proof of connection. Men wore them into combat, their edges worn smooth by sweat and time. For soldiers, the ring was no longer about status. It was about survival, a reminder of what waited at home. When the war ended, America came home to a new dream. The 1950s promised comfort, houses, cars, jobs, and the diamond engagement ring stood at the center of that dream. Jewelers advertised it as a guarantee of security, the final step toward a perfect life. In reality, many young couples stretched beyond their means to meet that expectation. Credit plans, easy payments, and whispered comparisons made love a financial test, yet the circle remained unbroken. As decades passed, styles changed. Yellow gold gave way to white, then platinum. Rings grew larger, flashier. Celebrities flaunted stones the size of raindrops, and the public followed eagerly. For some, the ring became less about love and more about spectacle, a small crown worn on the hand. But love has a way of evolving. The old traditions began to bend. By the 1970s and 80s, women were no longer only recipients. They worked, earned, and sometimes proposed themselves. Same-sex couples began exchanging rings, claiming the circle as their own. The meaning deepened again in the modern age. Some couples now choose simple bands without stones. Others use family heirlooms, lab-grown gems, or handcrafted rings made from recycled gold. The message has shifted from how much you spend to what it means. Today, a ring can carry any story two people want it to tell. It might come from a grandmother's drawer, or from an online designer halfway across the world. It might cost a fortune, or next to nothing. What matters is the choice, the willingness to say, "This circle is ours." Still, echoes of the old pressures linger. Advertisements still hint that a small diamond means small devotion. Society still measures love in carats, not kindness. Yet beneath all the noise, the original truth endures, that the ring's power has never come from its metal or its stone, but from the hands that exchange it. He asked, she said yes, and in that moment, the centuries fall away, the reeds of the Nile, the iron of Rome, the gold of cathedrals, the sparkle of store windows. Each age adds its own layer, but the meaning remains the same. A promise, fragile yet enduring, bound in a circle that never ends. So the next time someone holds out a ring, remember what it really is. Not a test, not a trophy, not a measure of wealth, but a symbol of hope. The belief that two lives can meet, hold fast, and spin together through time. The circle of love, unbroken, unending, and still shining long after the gold has dulled and the diamond has lost its fire. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more tales of how love, in all its forms, has shaped the way we live, hope, and dream.